Hey YouTube, in this next set of videos, I know I haven't done videos in a while since, or with the exception of the unboxing videos for set 6, but I've been just really busy with stuff, so I haven't been able to devote a whole lot of time to Vanguard this spring. As promised, I did build as many of the decks as I could based off of all the cards that I pulled. Since I pulled very heavy on Shadow Paladin, I was able to upgrade all the decks. All 4 of these. The only deck that didn't get any support was the Witches, the Shadow Witches. But they've kind of been struggling, so I'm kind of a little disappointed that they didn't get like 1Z, 2Z type of cards to support them, whether they're just commons or rares. But anyway, Revenger's got some good things. Raging Form Dragon is back. He got revived slightly. So it's pretty fun to play. Drag Ruler also benefited quite a bit. So I guess the Phantom Revengers, they got some upgrades as well, but it's not a whole lot different. The deck still plays the same as it's always has. Claret Sword got some support as well. And then finally, the Diablo archetype or subclan or sub-archetype or whatever became a thing now. Originally it was Blaster, although Blaster itself did get support as well, so it's worth mentioning that. But that deck I did not build, the Blaster one, so I'm focusing more on Diablo now. Going with the show and with the new Spectral Blaster, so the Return of Spectral Duke Dragon. So today we're going to be doing the Raging Form deck. I'll work our way to the newer stuff later on. So for now, we're going to be doing Raging Form in his new build, and then we'll do the Phantom Revengers. So this is the non-Phantom Revengers, basically. Now, I have seen some decks out there where people combine Raging Form with this guy, Phantom Blaster Abyss. And you can do that, that's fine. It's just, I don't like it when Judge Bow only works like 50% of the time. If I ride this first, then he works. Otherwise, he's not going to do anything almost all game, unless I re-ride Blaster Abyss later. So I prefer to run Raging Form outside of the Phantom build, so he can just get support from the general setup. So for Raging Form Dragon, he is and was always like one of my favorite Shadow Paladin Vanguards. He's limit break, so he's not GB restricted, as with all Revengers. They don't have any GB restriction, aside from the Legion archetype. But that has nothing to do with Stride. So anyway, everybody who's played Vanguard for a while now, for at least I guess the last 2 years. This guy came out February 2014, Binding Force of Black Ring, Season 3, best season. So he's still pretty good. He always was pretty good, actually, even in Stride format. He just lost a little bit of his appeal, mainly because he's a Persona Blast or Persona Ride type of skill, which does conflict with Stride. But thanks to the new support, that problem's kind of gone now. So for my backup grade 3, I am running 4 Halberd Revenger Paradir. People like to tech the Legion Cormac with Regiform. I was running that at one time, but I decided not to go with Legion because I don't think it's really needed. This deck is really all about speed and just kind of like rushing your opponent down and abusing Limit Break Enabler skills and things like that to deal massive amounts of damage quickly. So either of these work with Limit Break Enabler. The fact that Paradir can superior call the Limit Break Enabler for them, if you've got 2 counterblasts that turn and you can afford to retire 2, he can do a lot of damage to the opponent really early. In those early stages of the game where, let's say you ride grade 3 first, they really don't want to guard, but then you use his skill, and then he's swinging for 21 with critical as your first turn 3 ride, or grade 3 ride. So yeah, so I think he's pretty good backup to Raging Form. Mortar Phantom is okay, I guess. It's a little slow now, and it's kind of irrelevant with Raging Form's new support. So that's why I'm not using Mortar Phantom. And I feel like Paradir can benefit from the same support cards that Raging Form can. Another good pick would be Drag Ruler. It's worth mentioning Drag Ruler also does benefit from the support cards. that came out for them, and he's in my other deck. So Drag Roller is really I consider him the Phantom build, or the Phantom Revenger build. So that's why I kind of kept them separate. So Paradeer is a good choice. So that's the grade 3s. For grade 2s, 4 Blaster Dark Revenger, always teaming up with Regiform. Very good. Revenger card gives you the ability to retire your opponent's front row units. 4 Nullity Revenger Masquerade. We run him because, again, the whole rushing, dealing damage as fast as you can, and he just free 12k, very consistent for Revengers. And we run a number of 6k grade 1s, so that way your 12 plus 6 is still hitting proper numbers. The next grade 2 is the new one, Revenger Dark Bless Angel. So this is the card that makes Raging Form really good. So what it does is when it's put in the drop zone from a rearguard circle for your unit's ability, so for example Paradeer or Raging Form retires it for their skill, whether it's the Persona Ride on Raging Form or whether it's to gain 10,000 in a critical with Paradeer, you can call, when this thing goes in the drop zone, you can counterblast 1 and call a grade 1 with Revenger in the name to the deck. So basically it allows you to potentially have 3 remaining cards on the field for Raging Form to do a double Persona Ride. So you can actually, if you have 3 copies, if you have the 1 on the field plus 2 in your hand, you can get 6 drive checks that turn, which is pretty devastating to your opponent's hand. That's the idea here. And then with Paradeer, you can, well, you won't be able to swing twice, but you'll be able to basically reduce the cost of his retire 2. So essentially it makes a plus 10k plus 1 critical for 2 counterblasts and retiring a 1. So it still works pretty well with him as well. So that's the grade 2s. For grade 1s, 4 Perfect Guard. Doesn't matter what Perfect Guard you run. Ideally, I would say the Revenger one is probably the best one to run. Next, 4 Doran. Doran with Blaster Dark. This is the unflip engine. The deck does have quite a bit of counterblast because Dark Bless Angel counterblast, especially if you're running Paradeer as the Vanguard that game, he'll use up quite a bit of counterblast to use his skill, to both of his skills. And then I am running 2 of this other new card, Revenger of Vigor Moir. So I might actually bump this all the way up to 4. Originally I was playtesting it with 4 and it was working, but I did run into situations where I just didn't have enough cards on the field. So what this does is when it's placed on R, you can special counterblast 1 Revenger to search your deck for a grade 3, and well, it has to be a card that's the same name as a card on your Vanguard circle. So obviously it's gonna be a grade 3 when you use it, because you have to have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Revenger. So this card, along with this one, is really what makes a Raging Form really good. Originally I was playtesting with 4, but I found situations where I just wanted some extra call potential from the deck, just within the deck, because I did take out Tartu. So I put back in 2 Dark Bond Trumpeteer. I might drop Dark Bond down to 1 and bump this guy up to 3, or just take it out completely and bump this back up all the way to 4. But it just in playtesting it with 4, like I ran into weird situations where I just wish I had extra rearguard on the field, especially in games where I was running Paradeer. So there's that. It does eat a lot of counterblast, but like this thing with Paradeer and Revenger, Raging Form is just still really good. And then the last grade 1 is just 2 of the Limit Break Enabler for Revengers, Tempting Revenger, Finagus. So just the ability of Shadow Paladin to tutor a lot of grade 1s allows you to run a lot of like 2/2/2 like this. So yeah. I could also potentially drop Doran to 3 and bump this up to 3, or maybe like drop Trumpeteer down to 1 and Doran to 3 and bring this up to 4. I don't know. Let me know in the comments like what you guys would recommend in terms of the grade 1, because the grade 1 space, in my opinion, is the most challenging part of building this deck. So that's the grade 1s. Trigger lineup didn't change at all. I'm still running the 4 draws because you eat a lot of cards. Your Vanguards eat a lot of cards on the field a lot. So, especially if you're like using Diablo plays. So yeah, so that's why I run the draws. And the 8 criticals, and the heals. And the starter is still Creeping Dargo just because it gives you another chance to potentially search another copy of this. So you can ensure that you get 2 copies to the hand, assuming you opened up with 1 in hand. So Creeping Dargo I still feel is just like, even though I hate this type of starter, it just works really well with Raging Form and this type of deck, where you want to search as many grade 3s to your hand as you can. So that's the main deck. For striding, it's pretty much just 1 True Revenger, Drag Ruler, Revenant. So he's down from his original 2 that I was running, because I found myself only really ever bringing him out once, and then after that I would go into other things, because you have to retire something to call a grade 1 and give it to 3k. So he's really something that you'd only stride 1 time. Like, I found myself striding him only 1 time and then I'd never use his effect again. So I am running 1 Dark Knight Grim Recruiter, because sometimes it's just better, especially if you do not have a good field setup and you don't want to retire something to call something. It's better to just blind swing, and if they don't guard it, then they get penalized, because then you get to do your free call anyway. So 1 of each of them seems to be like it works fine. Next I'm running 2 Aura Geyser, because he can still be a pretty good first stride in Revengers, even though they're not GB2 or GB restricted. He's just still a very solid card for Shadow Paladin, one of the best first strides. And then I'm just running 4 Diablo in here, because you still can use the Diablo play, just like if you were to retire 3 for Raging Form. If you don't have the Persona Blast or whatever, or let's say you're using Paradir that game, you can just do your Diablo plays. So there's that. So that's basically my new updated Raging Form deck. Let me know, like I said in the comments, what you would recommend for the grade 1s, because that's really the only one that I struggle with in terms of the lineup. But the deck is just, it's a relatively fun Shadow Paladin deck. I wouldn't say it's like the super good, but it's still a really solid deck. Shadow Paladin has a lot of like pretty good high quality decks. So anyway guys, that was the deck profile. Hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.